Hi guys, welcome back to the second part of this video where we were talking about materials and how to render them correctly. I did a little explanation of how the light bounces on them and how different surfaces create different reflections and how shiny is nothing but a very smooth surface and rough creates matte surfaces. So if you haven't seen it, check out my video, check out the link, and you can see that video and then come back to this one. So in today's video, we're just gonna work on three simple cubes. It's just gonna be, I do a cube because it's a very simple shape and that we're not confusing about what's going on and we can focus on what we're doing, which is the materials. So by doing a cube, I did one that is matte, one that is like semi-glossy, and one that is like shiny glossy. And I did that just using my grayscale markers. So with the grayscale, we're not getting confused by adding color. And I only used my number 1, my 3, my 5, my 7, my 9. And that's it. I didn't even go to black, so I didn't punch the full contrast. So I have this special table that I created so I can record. So I have my camera mounted on top of the paper. And then when I rotate the paper, it rotates with the camera, which is kind of cool. It still has a little tweaks to make it not shaky and stuff like that. I have to figure out, but it's looking better. Okay guys, so today we're gonna do the part 2 of the video that I started last week, which was more to try to help you understand how materials reflect and how you can render them, how you do something matte against something shiny. So today we're not gonna draw a car, we're gonna draw some simple shapes to make this easier for you. I'm gonna render it with different materials so you can understand the difference from it. Okay, I'm just gonna use my regular pencil and my markers. This is my very thin pencil. This is the one I use the most for most of my sketching. And it's a very convenient pencil to use because it doesn't bleed with the marker and it stays sharp longer. I have a video talking about it. Always use your electric sharpener, a lot faster, saves you a lot of time. And start with a new clean paper. And what I just did there is I always take one of my top pages and put it behind the other page because that page keeps getting damaged by the page under keeps getting damaged by the pencils and the markers and stuff. So for me to save my other marker paper, I always take that top page, put it on the bottom, and then when I'm done working with this one, then I'll slide that one again and again. So I'm using that same page to pretty much destroy it and save the pages before it. So today we're gonna start something super simple, right? Okay, so we're gonna start with a simple cube, and that's gonna help you just see the materials the way they are, right? So if I go like this, so we have a cube, we have the shadow of the cube, which we'll go into detail of that one later. Right now I'm just gonna kind of indicate it, and I'm gonna take my markers. So I'm gonna take my just my grayscale to keep it simple for now. So I'm gonna take 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and black. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say where the light is coming from, right? So if the light is coming from this side, we're gonna have the lightest side will be the top, right? So I'm gonna take my number 1 marker. Then I'm gonna take my number 3, which is my second lightest side. And I have to get used to drawing on this board. And then I'm gonna take my backside, which is the number 5, right? I'm gonna fill it in. So by controlling just the tones, you get a very three-dimensional piece to it, and it starts to create volume, and that's very important. A lot of people, when they see my cars, they tell me it looks like it's coming out of the paper, and the thing is, that's how you control it, by controlling the light and the different tones on the surface. So now we have a cube that it's this is my number 1 marker, that's my number 3, that's my number 5, but the thing is, nothing is lit up exactly the same all around. So what I do is, to make it a little more dynamic and realistic, I actually modify the tones a little bit so it's not perfectly even. So my number 1 is not all perfectly number 1. So check this out. I'm gonna leave the front corner a little lighter than the back side of it, just because I want my biggest change of contrast up front, because that's what brings people's eyes to your drawing. So you want to have your contrast and your change of tones up front where they can see them, and that's where their eyes are going to go. Where you have no contrast and not a lot of change of tone, that's where people are going to ignore it. So that's usually towards the back of the drawing. So I'm drawing a car, the front nose, like the front top corner, is where I put all my detail and all my contrast, and as I go back I lose some of that contrast and some of that detail, so that way I control where the people looking at my artwork are looking at, or my design. So now I'm going to take the number 7 and just put the shadow on the back. Actually, no, you know what? Now I'm going to take the number 3 again and just play with the tone a little bit of what I was working on. So if you see the top corner, I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. And the cool thing is, if I go over to the number 5 over there, I don't care because it's darker. So you have to know where you can make mistakes and where you can't. So I can always go with a lighter marker over a darker one, but I cannot go the other way around. So now we have the 1 with the 3 and the 5. And then again the 5, I'm gonna punch, I'm using my number 5 again, I'm gonna punch that top corner. And you see how that contrast right on this area is popping out. So it's making my cube look a lot more three-dimensional. And then I'm gonna grab my shadow. I'm gonna start with a number 7. I'm gonna clean the edge. The 7 is dry. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my number 7. I'm gonna hit my outlines, and same thing, I can do this again, what I was doing with the cube. I want to control the tone, so not all my number 7 is exactly the same tone. To make it a lot more dynamic, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go again closer to where the cube is, and I'm going to punch out that contrast, and then I'm going to let it fade away. So markers, you always have to clean them up with pencil at the end so it doesn't look like super blurry. So if you see here, I'm going to put my ground, put my other ground on this side. I'm going to put this one a little bit right here. And then the front edge, I'm going to clean it with a white pencil because that's where the light is hitting it. So just like that, we have a three-dimensional cube that has a little shape to it. So if you see this cube, it has not a lot of change of contrast and in tone. So this is kind of like a matte cube. It's the light is pretty even. The lightest tone against the darkest tone is very similar. Now let's try another cube, but let's make it a little shinier. Not as shiny as like a chrome. Make it shiny like a painted car. So again, we're going to draw our cube. So same thing, the light is coming from the same direction. We're gonna make it